Association back to back. But pandemic guests, I've never had to handle pandemic guests and pandemic subjects. So I must be forgiven. This is a one time, hopefully one time in a lifetime occasion. But I bring in Mike Whaley now, a good friend, and enjoyed covering him as a high school coach. Enjoyed seeing him on the court as a high school basketball official. It was one of the best, and now he's one of the best at leading with the OSSAA and joins us now. Mike, how are you? Or I should say, Coach. How are you, Coach?
All good today, my friend. I'm just like you. I'm trying to wander through the pandemic forest here and try to figure out what's what. I've told everybody around here the next pandemic, I'm out. I'm just good for one.
Hey, I'm hoping, and I don't know, I'm not going to say this for you, but next time we have a pandemic, I expect to be hopefully looking down, not looking up from
Amen to
the
that.
other
I'll
world.
go with you.
There you go. All right, let's talk about this. And I'm going to ask you a crazy question to start with. You coached. You were a head football coach at the high school level, at the highest high school level. And I thought you did an excellent job as a head football coach. Can you imagine being a head football coach during this?
No, to be extremely candid with you, Robert, I can't. I tried to put myself in that place, and as you know, we have Grant Gower on our staff now as the director of officials, who also served as a football coach in many different roles. And he and I have sat in our office and tried to go through all those things that we thought we wouldn't be able to do, or how would we do that now? I think that is one of the things that's been extremely challenging. But I have talked to a number of football coaches across our state, high school level, and some at the college level, just about that. And the first response I get from a lot of them is, if it was going to be challenging for a group of people, this is the group of people to be challenged. Football coaches and football players are used to that kind of stuff, and we'll adapt and go on.
All right, this is 0 week. I saw on the 10 o'clock news, I guess Edmond North had a spike. Their game with Deer Creek has been called. I am hoping to be at McGinnis on Friday night to watch Muskogee, Rafe Watkins' team, and watch that McGinnis team. I know there's still some scrimmages. In fact, I'm kind of hoping to be down in Norman on Thursday night to watch Stillwater scrimmage the Norman Tigers. How much communication do you have with the various schools with regards to, for instance, like Edmond North, when a game is going to be canceled? And right now, how tenuous is that, Mike?
Well, I think this is, as we have facetiously alluded to at the very beginning, it's brand new for these folks too, in every aspect. And so this first couple of weeks here will be very interesting as far as what school districts are willing to go through, or will think that they can overcome, or will think that they can provide a safe environment based on what data they have. We have been trying to stay in contact with all of our member schools about COVID-related things. All of our directors have been emailing coaches and athletic directors across the state every week to say, hey, just give us an update. What do you got? What's your situation? Have you had to cancel a practice? Do you have anybody quarantining and all that? And we've been getting a pretty good response from that. We've got a fairly good idea. But as you know, the first few games in a football schedule in our state for high schools are usually non-district games. So that's choice games that districts are making. And so they'll have their own choice about whether they want to go through with that or not go through with that, or based on what the COVID response is in their community.
All right. And I know Mr. Jackson has had the Zoom meetings. I was in on one of those, went back and listened to the other. I know very much the OSSAA has tried to put a lot of the decisions in the hands of the individual school districts, which, is probably a good thing, because it's hard for your organization to make blanket decisions when there's so many. I mean, you've got metro areas, you've got rural areas. I know this. I went out to Thomas to do a story on their big defensive tackle, Aiden Kelly, and and coach out there was, that you would not think there's anything going on. Thomas looked like a normal football practice, and I came out wearing a mask, and coach came over to me and said, "You can wear your mask, but we don't have any positives in this town, and we're kind of operating, this way." And I said, "Hey, that's fine. I don't really like the mask anyway," and I kept my distance. I mean, but I mean, again, it's hard for your organization to make decisions for so many different school districts and schools that have very different circumstances through this.
And I think we were given some good leadership from our board early on that that was definitely the case. That the majority of the far more than the majority of the folks in our state wanted to handle those decisions at the local level, and we tried to put in place some statewide type mandates, and we're very quickly changing those to statewide guidelines to allow folks who wanted to use them, and it's directly related to what you just described. The situation in Custer County is not the situation in Oklahoma County, and our state is very diverse as far as our member schools, and our organization and our superintendents throughout the state have made it very clear to us that they need to make those decisions based on what's going on in their community.
And my producer back in the studio, Patrick Wheeler's got a game he'll be doing play-by-play on Friday night. Perry getting ready to take on Pahuska. I told him he needs to see if he can't get Ree Drummond, the Pioneer woman, as his halftime guest, since her son's a quarterback there at Pahuska.
That would be a large feather in his hat to be able to do that. Yes, sir.
It would. But just for those of us, because I know you've been looking at it, even though it's not necessarily the decisions that the OSSAA are making, what do you expect to if you drive to the typical high school football game? Let's take Perry and Pahuska. It's not a metro area, but it's also not a tiny town like Class A or Class B. It's not 8-man. What do you expect the typical high school football stadium, Mike, to look like on a Friday night or Thursday night?
Well, I would probably tell you that in our rural areas we would not see much of a change, just like you described at your visit to Thomas High School, because of the impact of the virus in those places. Also, because the metro area guidelines in the larger districts, both in Tulsa County and Oklahoma County, are very specific about what they're going to be able to do and not do. I think most of our rural areas have just said that they will, want to see masks maybe or maybe not, and want to regard social distancing if possible. I think in the stands we're going to see a large difference in how folks are handling that and what's going on in that community. On the field, I don't know that we'll see a lot of difference. There's going to be a couple of things that you're going to notice very quickly that we've tried to add to the game to at least address a couple of those issues. The first thing you're going to see is that the team box has been extended down to the 10-yard line. It normally is cut off at the 25-yard line, but we've moved it to the 10 to make sure that we have social distancing opportunities for everyone. Now, some of our officials, as you can imagine, are a little concerned that coaches will be able to roam 80 yards instead of what they're normally used to, but that's something we'll all have to adjust to. The other thing we're going to see is that timeouts may have a little bit longer length, because to get proper hydration to the players and the coaches, that hydration needs to be almost individual, and so we'll have to let them come over to wherever the water containers are for each player and go through that. So you'll see a little bit of a difference there, maybe a little longer between quarters as transition is made. But those are probably the only two things you're going to notice right off the first kickoff that's going to be a little bit different. The other things shouldn't be that different to the game that you and I are used to watching on Friday night.
The officials, I know this because I deal with Big 12 with my Saturday job, and they've given me, the sideline guys, we have a 5-yard by 5-yard box. They've extended to the 15, so I'm from the 10 to the 15, and That's going to be interesting to see if I stay in that box. I guess I'm going to have to. But officials are all going to, all going to be masked at the college game and all that. I'm assuming, and especially because officials generally are older. Some are
Right.
are older, and they need to be more protective of themselves.
Well, you're hitting on an aspect of this pandemic that came to Coach Gower and the officials immediately, is that we do have an older aged group of officials across our state. We're not any different than any other state. This is happening across the country, but our older officials are concerned about how many exposures they wanted to put themselves in, and so we've had to do some, or the member schools have had to do some creative scheduling to be able to fill all of those games with officials, because we have a lot of officials that normally
Opted
would
out.
have worked, yeah, a Friday night and then maybe a Monday night JV game or a Tuesday night junior high or a ninth grade or eighth grade game, and now they're just thinking maybe one exposure a week is all they need to put themselves in, and of course taking care of your health, that's much more important than any football contest, but it's really made it challenging for some of our official organizations and some of our schools trying to get officials there for the contest.
Hey, Mike, I greatly appreciate it. I hope we run into each other soon, and we can fist bump and say hello through our mask and all that good stuff. But I do appreciate the job that you and Mr. Jackson and Grant and everybody. And hey, I even appreciate Van Shay. And I'm kidding. I appreciate Van Shay
Well,
tremendously. But
we're trying to get that where we do too, Robert. To be honest with you.
well, you guys take care, and let's hope we have at least a football season that these kids and their parents and families and friends can enjoy.
Exactly, Robert. Appreciate the opportunity as always, and we always look to you as being one of those folks that's out there promoting high school sports, and we appreciate that.
I love it, love it. So, Coach, I appreciate it.
Thank you, Robert.
All right, Mike Whaley with the Oklahoma Secondary Schools Activities Association.